Good morning. So today we're talking about hierarchy and how we can set up our objects so that we know right where we want the viewer to look first, second, and then third. In this case, I have an odd number of objects, which is always the best. I have a background that has both green and brown, a lot of browns in it. And then I have these 5 bottles. So right now, we don't really know. We're definitely looking at that blue bottle first, but it's not that pleasing of a setup for right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and move these around and see if I can get it so that you know exactly where I want you to look here in this image. So I'm going to put that so that this sort of frames it, this branch. So I'm going to put that there. It's my biggest object, and it really has a lot of color in it, so it's a sort of an interesting object. So I want it right there. So I'm putting it in that little nook. And then I'm going to go for my second object. This object's going to grab our attention because of the color. So we might not want all of that in the image. It's just really strong. That's exactly where our eye is probably going to go first because of the color of that object. So I'm going to now go ahead and sort of try to lay out my other objects in a way that makes us look throughout the entire frame of this. So you can maybe bring something closer. And now my eye goes over here, right? And then it goes over here to these 2 objects, and then it comes back, and then it goes over to here. I still don't like this line. It's keeping me in the frame, but it's a little bit too much. So I would work on that. I like it, but I might get a little closer so that less of it is there, and then move this bottle back. So now I have like a way to see this where I'm going from here, and then I'm going into here, and then I'm coming back out, and I'm coming back over, and then I'm up around, and then back in the frame, back up and around. Really, you want to get your viewer to look in the entire frame. So hierarchy is really about what do you want your viewer to see first, second, and then third. And you can see that if I move these objects around and they get bigger as you come closer, if I do that, then there's a weird sort of this tangent, it's called, is weird, and I don't like that overlap. So be careful of what's in your background. And then I can bring this back in. Now I kind of like that. I like seeing the whole bottom of this bottle, but then I lose the top of this. So be really careful when you're moving your objects, and make sure that you're aware of everything that's happening in the foreground, middle ground, and background. Now in this video, I can't blur the background, but I probably would blur the background, go back and pixeler and blur it. So now you can see that the way where you put objects is really gonna change this photo. So what if my biggest object's right in the middle right now, and I don't know if I like that. So what if I bring this object over so it's more in my rule of thirds, right? Bring this in a little. And then my object here, so, and then maybe some overlap between these 2 objects. Now I feel like I like that a little bit better. I still don't like that overlap. So play with your rule of thirds. Make sure that you try it at least, so that this object now at the top there is more in line with my rule of thirds. So you could see as I move these around that just moving things a little bit really changes the image. I can move this back so that it fits in that little space. So we're using our negative space and our positive space to build our image. And this object, I don't know if I like there. I could try to overlap it there. and then just leave this space and let this bring your eye back in instead of trying to use that bottle at the edge, because then I have two bottles that are at the edge, and I don't know if I like that so much. So don't forget that your moving things around really changes the image and the feel of the image. And then the light. So I'm in morning light. It's about 7 this morning, and I am using a really nice, soft, you could see the light in this bottle is really beautiful. And then here you're getting some reflection. Like I can see myself here. So be careful when you're setting up your shot, because you might be able to see yourself as the photographer. So I would try this in other places too, because this background is it's very complicated. There's a lot going on in this background. I could even move more sort of this way and use this space. So then that's going to change the whole feel of this image. I probably would move this to over there. I would move this, maybe put it in my rule of thirds, bring this over, maybe here, still leave that there. And then my last object maybe is featured there. So you could see that really had a big effect on how my image looks and feels. But still, my hierarchy is I look here, and then here, here, and then I come back to these two items. So this one, maybe I make it smaller, go back in space. So play with your space and play with like these objects and overlap. So 3 objects next to each other is kind of interesting. So your job is to make us look where you want us to. So I want you to look here, and then here, and then come back to here. And then this gate keeps you in the image, okay? So be really thoughtful about your hierarchy of images and make sure that you're directing the viewer. You're controlling where they look and when. All right, that is hierarchy. You're gonna need a few objects. Obviously, you can't just use 1 or 2. Thank you.